My name is Mpho Kubelo. I'm the Chief Risk Officer at the Development Bank of Southern Africa, the DBSA.
Why is it so crucial for the Development Bank to ensure that there is enough funding for renewable energy in Africa?
As we know, all economies in the world are driven by energy. Energy is a key component of any economic growth. We know where we are as a continent in terms of energy and the supply of energy. Research shows that there's a lot of need for investment in the energy sector. So the DBSA, as a development funding agency, is very keen on making sure that we meet that mandate and that we deliver energy and make sure that there's sufficient energy to drive economic growth across the continent.
Looking at the Southern African countries that are here today, how huge is the gap of that funding across the country?
It is estimated at about 219 billion US dollars per annum in terms of what needs to be invested in energy. And that's why, as the DBSA, we believe that we can play a critical role in making sure that that investment gap is met.
Is that only Southern Africa or Africa?
This is mostly, a lot of the research that is done is across the continent in terms of infrastructure and all of that, to make sure to look at how much infrastructure investment is required on the continent. And by the way, this is an annual amount. It's not in terms of over a period of time, but an annual amount of investment that is required.
In summary, just give us those facilities or units or offers that your bank is offering to these African countries. Are you funding the infrastructure? Are you funding the components? What exactly is it?
So the DBSA primarily funds infrastructure investment, so that can be through partnering with the private sector, partnering with the sovereigns, or we can do triple Ps as well. So across the continent, where we play really has been that we do loans with government that are dedicated to projects. So we don't do funding, general purpose funding, we do project specific funding, and in certain instances we will then partner with the private sector to deliver on infrastructure needs in that particular country. So we do everything from project finance into balance sheet lending, depending on what the requirements of the client is.
And what would be the advantages of working with you, not with international bodies like IMF and other organizations that we've had African countries crying about interest rates that are high and being tied to those debts for quite some time?
For us, given the gap that is there, is not either or. It's about partnering. It's about making sure that we work together to deliver what is required on the continent. As a development finance institution, we prioritize long-term projects where we're able to take away the burden of having to service the debt on a shorter period from the countries that we work with. So we tend to prefer long-term funding and make sure that we meet the client needs and all of that. But as I say, it's not about either or. I think it's mostly about partnership.